A 31-year-old mama's boy tried to dodge the bride price by spreading rumors that his girlfriend's baby wasn't his. He thought he could bully her due to the stigma of being pregnant out of wedlock, but he had no idea he was messing with the wrong woman. Her family went ahead with an abortion, packed the remains in a styrofoam box, and sent it straight to his house. He got to keep his money, but his precious heir is gone forever. His own father ended up wailing on the ground in total despair. In this life, there is an old saying, the human heart is the hardest thing to gauge. Lynn was a virtuous, hard-working young woman. Through a mutual acquaintance, she met Yang, a 31-year-old unemployed man. At first, Yang appeared humble and attentive, convincing Lynn's family that he was a responsible man. After only 2 weeks of dating, feeling their personalities were a good match, the two families quickly set a wedding date with an agreed-upon dowry of 80,000 RMB. The joy seemed to double when Lynn discovered she was pregnant. She thought it was a double blessing, a bond that would cement their future. But she never imagined that this tiny life would become the ultimate litmus test, stripping away the mask of her future in-laws. The moment they heard Lynn was pregnant, Yang's family changed their tune faster than a pancake flip. Their warmth turned into a bone-chilling coldness. Specifically, Shan, Yang's mother, began counting every penny. The promised 80,000 RMB dowry suddenly evaporated without a single explanation. When Lynn confronted Yang for an explanation, she was met with a bucket of ice water to the face. Yang, the man she intended to spend her life with, looked at her with contempt and uttered words that shattered her heart. "Is that baby even mine? Who knows who else you've been seeing behind my back?" This baseless suspicion wasn't just an insult. It was a lethal blow to a woman's honor. In their rural village, a woman's reputation is worth more than life itself. Yang and Shan knew this well, yet they deliberately spread rumors, labeling Lynn as a loose woman who got pregnant out of wedlock. They acted as if the Yang family taking her in was a grand act of charity, and that she had no right to demand a dowry. Looking at the wedding gifts already prepared in her room, Lynn could only sob in silence. She couldn't fathom how a 31-year-old man could be so cowardly and cruel just to cheat her out of a dowry. Refusing to suffer in silence, Lynn went to the village entrance, where Yang's family owned a small supermarket, to demand answers. Yang was nowhere to be found, leaving only Shan to play the poor and struggling act. Shan ranted to the mediators and neighbors, claiming they had invested over 400,000 RMB into the supermarket. She argued, "Isn't this shop for their future? Lynn is about to become the boss's wife. What is she complaining about? That 80,000 RMB dowry was actually invested into the shop. Isn't that better than cash?" Shan's hypocrisy was staggering. The business license was clearly in Yang's name. The supermarket was his asset and had nothing to do with Lynn. Yet Shan had the audacity to count her own investment as Lynn's dowry. Even worse, the neighbors, ignorant of the truth, began to gossip. They accused Lynn of being a gold digger, claiming she was ungrateful for insisting on the dowry. Their words, filthier than sewer water, surrounded the vulnerable woman, who was now 3 months pregnant. When Lynn finally tracked Yang down with a mediator, he played the victim. Yang claimed he had evidence because Lynn had supposedly messaged another man late at night with a sweet expression. He also insisted the pregnancy timeline didn't match their intimate dates. Yang's malice and ignorance were on full display. Lynn indignantly explained that pregnancy cycles are calculated from the last menstrual period, making a few days' difference medically normal. But Yang refused to listen. He had one goal. If Lynn wanted to cancel the wedding, she had to return the 30,000 RMB deposit they had paid earlier. Lynn realized the Yang family wanted to catch the prey with bare hands. They wanted the bride, they wanted to keep the money, and they wanted to ruin her reputation so she could never marry anyone else. Lynn made a bold ultimatum. "Fine, let's get a DNA test. If the baby isn't yours, I'll pay you double the dowry. But if it is yours, you pay me double. Do you dare?" Afraid of looking weak in front of the mediator, Yang agreed. But what happened? The next morning, Lin waited at the hospital for hours. Yang was a no-show. His phone was off. His messages were unread. A 31-year-old man had abandoned the battlefield like a coward. Yang's disappearance confirmed everything. He knew the child was his, but he was too pathetic to admit his mistake. Lin tearfully told the mediator about her past. She had moved there 15 years ago when her mother remarried. Living as a stepchild made her cautious, always longing for a peaceful home of her own. Now, the Yang family's malice had brought shame upon her entire household. When she confronted them again, Yang changed his script. He suddenly admitted the baby was his, calling the previous accusations a misunderstanding. He promised to add her name to the supermarket license if she would just proceed with the wedding. Even the mediator malfunctioned, advising Lin to just close her eyes and accept it so she could be a supermarket boss. But Lin was no longer the weak girl she once was. She saw right through him. If you actually cared, why hasn't there been a single phone call in 3 months? Why, while I was suffering from morning sickness at my mother's house, did you never once ask how I was? Driven to the edge, Lin made a painful but final decision. She would terminate the pregnancy. She refused to let a child be born into a family defined by cowardice and greed. When the Yang family heard Lin was going to the clinic, they panicked. They offered 100,000 RMB if she would just give birth. But it was too late. For Lin, this was no longer about money. It was about dignity. Following the surgery, Lin didn't let them off easily. She sent the result of their cruelty straight to their doorstep in a foam box. Seeing their hopes for a grandson vanish, Yang and his father collapsed to the ground, wailing in despair. They kept their money, but their blessings were gone. Why the dramatic breakdown? Yang was an only son and suffered from fertility issues. This child had been their last chance at a lineage, a chance they destroyed with their own hands. The story didn't end there. Yang had the nerve to sue Lin for the return of the 30,000 RMB deposit, accusing her of marriage fraud. But the court was just. After reviewing the evidence of the family's slander, their attempt to ruin her reputation, and their evasion of responsibility, the judge ruled in Lin's favor. The 30,000 RMB was awarded to Lin as compensation for emotional distress. She didn't have to return a single cent. Furthermore, the court ordered the Yang family to pay for all of Lin's medical, nutritional, and recovery expenses. The story closes with Lin leaving that village behind, casting off her painful past. She understood that her decisive action was her ticket to a brighter future. In love and marriage, money may be scarce, but character is non-negotiable. A man who still hides behind his mother's skirt at 31, using petty schemes to boy-knot his woman, will eventually pay the price. What do you think of Lin's choice? Was she too harsh, or was this a necessary escape? Let us know in the comments.